Houston. I wanted to work for NASA.
Okay, well, this is kind of the first question I wanted to ask,
Okay.
so we can kind of start there.
Okay, sure. Yeah, yeah.
So we have someone from the humble background of Kerwinsville,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania,
Golden
and
Tide.
the Golden Tide. And I used to watch games from over in Kerwinsville when they had the big running backs over there, and they used to have them all the time,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
just running over people, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And so here's a boy from Kerwinsville, and
yeah.
the question I wanted to ask you, as I was thinking about it on the way over here,
Hmm.
is where did this passion come from to do what you have done for so long?
Sure. Yeah. It's a great story, and it's amazing how God leads you in life and your path He puts you on. Sometimes I totally 180 or 180 my whole career decision based on this, but it basically started in eighth grade. Also, my passion for aerospace and the space program and whatnot. And my eighth grade science teacher, his name was Mike Keeley, and is still a great friend of mine to this day. I had him in class, and he was really into the space program and stuff. This is early, early mid '70s. We were right after the Apollo missions and all that stuff. So it was really the thing back then, and whatever. So anyway, so he got me into astronomy, and I really fell in love with it. And blah blah blah. So uh, go through his class. I'm going into ninth grade, and I get a phone call from Mr. Keeley, and he is the junior high football coach. He said, "Hey, I'm looking at somebody I thought would be a great manager, and you came to mind, and I wanted to know if you wanted to help me out and be a manager for the team." My physically, I have a scoliosis. When I was in school, I wore a back brace. It's called a Milwaukee style back brace. I had plaster Paris from my hips up to halfway up my belly, and had metal bar up to my chin, two metal bars up the back, and I could take it off and on, and I could go to gym class and take it off. But it was just my scoliosis. They didn't know how, as I grew, they wanted me to wear this brace till I was done growing, and then I would get out of the brace, which I did when I was about 16, 17. I didn't have to wear it anymore, so my growth plate was finished growing, and I figured they had, because they were worried about me as I got older, because I was born with this, this scoliosis, but I also had a shoulder blade. I have half my shoulder blade missing on my left side. I got some ribs fused together on my left, some missing. So I always had that, the challenge, whatever. But still could move, and still felt fortunate to be able to move around and do what I could physically. And so I, anyway, um, um, so he asked me to be the manager for the team, and I'm like, I was kind of shy back then. I'm like, I don't know, I don't really want to do this. Well, my best friend was also one of the players, and he convinced me, oh, come on, I'll be there. So I said, yeah, Mr. Keeley, I'll do it. So I'm there for about 2 or 3 days. First day of practice in August in preseason, and the varsity coach sees me, and one of the assistant varsity coaches used to hunt with my dad, and he said, "Oh, you know what? We should get Brad to be a manager for us because, they had a kid the year before that did a real nice job for him. He was only with him for 1 year. Let's get somebody younger, and we can have him for 4 years and be around. So, well, I didn't want to disappoint Mr. Keeley, my eighth grade science teacher, and with junior high, and so I told Mr. Keeley, he's, oh, that's varsity. You got to go to varsity. I mean, that's it. Varsity's it when you're in high school. So I said, oh, okay. So I decided to do it. So I became the varsity football manager. I was in the ninth. I was a junior, or I was a freshman, and that led to, well, then the wrestling coach saw me. Oh, after I did football, and the wrestling coach was also an assistant football coach. Oh, can you do wrestling for me? So I did wrestling. And then that spring, the baseball coach saw me around. Oh, you want to do baseball? So I did baseball. So I did 3 sports for 4 years in Kerwinsville, and pretty much didn't need a hall pass by the end of my senior year, and I could rock around, with
You
the.
kind of own the place.
And I had keys to the school, So, but it was great. It was a tremendous experience, and so I really fell in love with it, So, but I. But I still had that passion for the aerospace, and my career goals were to be in it. I wanted to work. I knew I physically could never be an astronaut. I would have loved to, but I couldn't. So, well, I want to be as close as I can. I want to work for Mission Control in Houston. So I literally I want to be the guy, going, Roger, Houston, the Eagle has landed. Over, Roger. I want to be that guy. So anyway, I get accepted to Du Bois branch campus, and I'm going to go in aerospace engineering. And so my senior year, we had the awards banquet. We have an award, and I want to add this story because it's really a very special to me, and it's a pretty amazing story. So my senior year, I get this at the awards banquet. I get called up in the stage in front of the whole school. I get a watch that's over there on my wall that I still have here with my collection from Penn State, and it's that all the coaches got me, and it said outstanding contribution to Kerwinsville athletic teams, and it had the years 1978 to 1982, and so after that was over, my 8th grade science teacher come up to me, and he said his wife was pregnant at the time. He said, hey, said, just want to know. So he pointed to his belly, her, and he said, and I'm not tooting my own horn on this, but I just wanted to say he points to the belly, nicest compliment I've ever had in my entire life, and says, I hope this kid in there here grows up to be half what you are. So I'm crying, he's crying, we're all crying. So nicest thing everybody ever said to me. So I thought, well, I said that's such an honor. He said, well, the reason I'm saying that is so my path went obviously a different way. But the ironic part about it, that kid today, his son Josh, works for Mission Control in Houston. You couldn't write that.
No, you could not.
Script. I mean, it's unbelievable. In fact, he's on the Artemis program, and the moon landing, and everything. He's part of that. So I just and I'm real good friends with him as well, his son, and he's invited me down to Houston to come tour the Mission Control, which I'm going to do when I retire here. So, but no, it's pretty cool. So, but back to so I go to Du Bois, and I'm in in aerospace engineering, still thinking that was my path, and finished up at Kerwinsville, and I get a call from Penn State. Said, hey, from the football equipment manager. Said, hey, we heard a lot about you over here, and he said he had a couple connections. But Lau Domick, who was my head football coach, worked at football camps in the summers, and he said he'd recommended me. I didn't know that. He said, you're going to Penn State. You got to do this. You got to do this. He told me later. He said, so I get a call from Penn State. Said, listen, we've heard good things about you. We'd love to have you as a student manager if you're interested, but we can't get you to main campus. You got to get here on your own. Okay, so I thought, man, I can't. This opportunity is great. I fell in love with it in high school. What I did, I said, I really got to take advantage of this situation. So I kind of did a little trick back then. I changed. I thought I'd get back into aerospace engineering, so I changed majors to a major that was only offered at main campus because I had a decent semester my first year. I had a decent year at Du Bois, but I needed to get over to main campus, so I still had 2 years of I had a whole another year. I had to stay at Du Bois, so I ended up. I changed majors. I got transferred to Penn State in the summer, and then I joined the team and started there in 1983 in the summer. And then once I get into it, and I was going to change my major back, and looking at the situation, I thought, boy, the time commitment is going to be so huge. I don't think I'm going to be able to handle the pressure of the aerospace engineering and that. So I ended up just sticking with the equipment manager end, and to change majors, and I didn't change back to aerospace, but anyway, it worked out. I mean, so I just so that's when it all started. That's how it started.
Well, I never heard you tell that story, and I was glad to hear. I knew bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
I knew that you spent your first year at the campus in Du Bois.
Yeah.
And so I had taken some classes there myself, in fact, back in the 70s.
Huh.
But, what I see and hear from what you are saying is that, and it relates to, I think, everybody, and that is that we have our plan.
Yeah.
And but that plan may not be the best plan,
Sure.
For us.
Yeah.
And the inspiration, I mean, for people that have to work through what you've had to work through physically.
Yeah.
And to say, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and this is not going to prevent me from doing that. Yeah. That's an inspiration. I mean, and to to have the relationship you've had with so many players, over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Stories that we don't have time, to
Sure.
go through. And of course, one of them was just here, and that was Bob White,
Yeah.
who was a player here. And
Yep.
then you ended up kind of working as an assistant to him,
Yes.
which you are retiring from next month, right?
Yes.
So, but someone like yourself, I can't see you after retiring from this responsibility, which you have had for 31 years that you were.
Yeah,
I
I was equipment manager for 31 years as equipment worked in the equipment room, and then I been in this role for 10 years, almost 11 years. In this role now, I'm a facility and events coordinator at Penn, at the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So we people don't realize that there's like 4 areas in the stadium that we rent out in the off season. So we have companies rent it for meetings or dinners. We have a lot of colleges and different divisions of campus will have banquets and stuff like that we have in our club area. So I work with the caterers, I work with the setup crews, and I'm kind of an event planner and manager. So, and then any maintenance of the suites and the south end zone inside areas, I oversee that as well. So, game days, I take care of those premium areas as well and make sure the maintenance and whatnot. So it's been a great role in the last 10 years for me. I'm still connected to it, but I didn't have the day-to-day grind of football and the hours to put in that I used to back then. But it's been a really great ride. But yeah, I've had, but what was neat is I have still contact and engaged with all the players that I've put equipment on over the years, and it's still around them and in game days and stuff. So, and that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm looking forward to doing now. I can actually I'm not working game days, and I can actually come here and enjoy being part of this Letterman's Club lounge that we have, and actually visiting with the players and former managers more. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, something you were blessed with too is to be equipment manager for one of the best coaches that ever coached this game.
Yeah.
And I know that he had a tremendous impact. He had to have a tremendous impact on your life as well.
Definitely.
Maybe you can address that a little bit.
Well, I tell people, I said, a lot of people ask, what was it like to work for Coach Paterno? And I said, I said, first off, you feared him. I mean, it was, but I feared him in a good way. He was the intensity that he would create. Like you just respect him. I'll put it this way. Let me say that Mike Reed put it the best way. Mike Reed, our All-American defensive end that played in the NFL, was an All-Pro, whatever. And Mike said one time, he said, he was addressing he was an MC in on his piano, an event we had for the Letterman, and there was a bunch of us there, and he said, we all feared the old man because we didn't want to disappoint him. And you had so much respect for Coach, and because he wanted the best out of you. What I always appreciated with Joe, like he like I said, and I say how you feared the old man on the practice. He would say, "Listen, if I'm not yelling at you at practice, then I don't care, okay? And you're lost cause to me. I don't, you're not helping me." He said, He said, at practice, I'm creating a tension atmosphere because I want to know who can I trust in the clutch in the fourth quarter when we're down 3 points and we're losing. We need to. Who can I trust to pull it out? He said, and he said, even you as an equipment manager, he said, when, I'd be at practice and I'd be fixing the helmet, thinking, I'm just fixing him. It was Kyle Brady one time. I'm fixing Kyle Brady's helmet. I didn't even know he was around. And all of a sudden I hear this voice from afar. "Let's go, Spider, get him back in there." And I'm like, what the hell? I didn't even know he was watching. So I look over my shoulder, and he's way on the other field, and he sees me fixing his helmet, and Kyle was standing there. So he's like, "What would you do in a game?" So seriously, he said, "Listen, it's football is a game of inches, and there's maybe 4 or 5 plays that make a difference in a game. You don't know when those 4 or 5 plays are." He said that one play that he's missing could be the key play. Okay, so you got to work to get that guy back in there as fast as you can. So I would practice myself at practice to figure out a way to fix the helmet as fast as I could, fix shoulder pads, replace the shoe, fix a torn jersey. So I had all kinds of gimmicks I did to fix guys and do whatever, So, but
you didn't want to be the one that would lose the game.
Exactly. Oh yeah, we've been, yes, right. So, in fact, one time we were in Iowa, I got thrown under the bus. We went to Iowa, and it was a beautiful day. It was 70 degrees. We're setting up pregame. Beautiful day, whatever. And it turned disaster. This cold front came through. it moved faster than it was supposed to. We weren't supposed to. It wasn't supposed to rain and get nasty till through the middle of the night. We would have been there and gone. Well, this front moved so fast. I guess the winds picked up, pushed it into Iowa faster. And over there, no mountains. It just goes, and it blew in right before the game started, and it got bitter cold, and the wind was howling. But I had no heaters on the sideline. I had no. We usually put liners in the capes, the rain capes we have. We have liners we can sew into them or zip into them that are quilted and warmer. Well, I didn't have them in there. I just had the shells because it was supposed to be 70 degrees and not sunny. Okay, and so we really weren't prepared well. And I'm like, so we're getting through it. And Iowa even offered it. Do you need some heaters? I said, well, the coach don't believe in heaters, so no, I don't. So I didn't. So anyway. So we ended up losing that game, and it was, so I was getting thrown under the bus by the media the next, like, why didn't they have heaters? Why did they have this? So our football operations director was taking Joe to the press conference on Monday, driving him to the press conference, and Tommy Venturino said to Joe, he said, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. One of your first questions, the Spiders been taking a beating in the media about not having prepared for the game and not having heaters on the sideline. He goes, well, I don't want heaters. I don't want them on the sideline. He said, well, I just let you know, so you might get that question. So sure enough, the first question from the media, why didn't you have any heaters on the sideline when it got cold at Iowa, So then but Joe defended me. He's like, no, I don't believe in them. I want you got to feel the elements. You're in them. I don't like you being warm and then going out in the cold and back into the warm. That's why we never have misters on the sideline either. He didn't believe in that. So Joe was old school.
That was the old school for sure.
Oh yeah,
and I'm part of the old school too. And sometimes that doesn't make you popular with the present situation.
Yeah.
But there was a reason for all of that.
Oh,
I mean, a great coach is always going to have a reason for what they do.
Oh yeah.
And he had reasons. I remember Bobby White saying that he had a line drawn in the sand.
Yeah.
If you will, and you didn't cross that. And what you said about getting on people is because you cared and wanted them to be the best.
Right.
And that I think truly at that time, and I think Bob's a good example of this. They were students first and athletes second.
Yeah.
And the young men that he produced, and I think Bobby's a good illustration of that. Really solid citizens and have succeeded in life.
Yeah.
And now in a day where everything is run by money, it wasn't the case back then.
And we talk about that was the line in the sand was the blue line. We painted a blue line, and Joe would say, listen, and it was right outside the locker room door when you walked onto the practice field. He said, when you cross that blue line, I want your mind focused on me. He said, forget about your girlfriends, forget about your test you have tonight later. He said, you focus on me those 2 hours. You're mine, And when you cross back over that line, then you can start worrying about that stuff, So, but he wanted their total attention. So, and back to Joe too. Your original question of Joe, you're working for Joe and the icon he was. I said, it was. The more and more I'm removed from Coach Paterno now, from his death, the more I realized how special it was. I was really part of something super special and iconic that it's never going to happen again in college football. And it was a true honor to work for Coach Paterno and be part of that era. Really was.
Yeah, isn't it neat when God puts really special people in your life that kind of changes your life?
Yeah.
And I think that all of us, regardless of profession, need to strive for that. That we might be one of those special people that kids will respond to. So.
And Joe became a really a father figure and grandfather figure to me. He made his, besides my own father, he was next in line, and I just respected him that much.
Now you're making me feel old.
No.
No. I'm going to guess your age at about 62 or somewhere.
That's it. You guessed it. 62.
Okay. So, so this journey is coming to an end, and what a great journey it's been.
Yeah.
And you have a lot to be thankful for with regard to it. You have been blessed. There's no doubt. What happens now when you leave the position you have now?
Well, I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm really excited about. I am considered actually a football letterman. If you're a 4-year student manager, you're actually considered a football letterman. So I have the lifetime membership letterman as being here. So, which gives me some privileges of a letterman where I have access to the letterman's lounge. I have a free sideline pass for life for myself. I've got 2 tickets because I'm a 25 plus year staff member in athletics. we have 2 comp tickets I'll get for life and it's parking. So I'm really going to be able to still come back, and that's what I'm actually looking forward to more than anything is be able to come back and enjoy that and not have to work it. I've so many years, so many times I've had people come in and former players, managers. Hey, I want to see you today. Hey, I'm coming in for the game. I say, I might see you, but I'm so busy. Because I am. I'm working operations and stuff. So game days were busy. So it's going to be fun to actually tailgate. I haven't ever tailgated. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I've tailgated briefly, like maybe on the way in. I come a little bit earlier if it was a night game. But I couldn't really do anything else, with it. I couldn't eat much or drink much or whatever. So, I'm just, but to be able to just enjoy that part and see the players and spend time with them, that's why I've really enjoyed this job the last 10 years, being in this kind of role where I'm operations and I do see guys, coming and going a little bit more and have more freedom than down with football. Was engaging with the former staff, people, and even alumni and fans, being able to spend time with them, tell old war stories and stuff. So I really enjoyed this role in the last 10 years as well. So, but yeah.
I want to know what happens when the Curwensville AD calls you.
Yeah. So,
and he says, "Well, now that you are finished with that job up there."
Oh yeah, yeah. so maybe I can do some consulting. I can think about that. So, well, actually, Coach Campbell, and really, first off, I'm super excited about Coach Campbell. He's met with myself and Bobby and a couple other former old staff members, and when he first came in, and just racking our brains and some ideas with how he wanted to engage with the letterman, which he's done, and it's been phenomenal. And he when he got word that I was retiring, he's like, "You can't retire." It's like he put his arm around me. And I said, "Oh, Coach," I said, "I know." I said, I still think I'm going to have it." He said, "Well, he said, we'd love to have you, around. So if you," he said, you still want to come around, you still want to be part of some stuff, let me know." So I think I want to do a little bit of that. I'm going to have an opportunity to maybe go down and help, when there's recruits are in town, or if there's, some community stuff that the players are doing, I might be able to get down and, just be around them and involved with them. So I'm kind of excited to still be part of that. And the Coach Campbell was even the kind enough to still want me to be kind of connected to the team.
Yeah, maybe our friend Jared here can get us an interview with the new head football coach here.
Yeah,
I would love to do that, Jared. So start working on that.
But I want to real quick back to when this led me to think about one of the first things that Coach Campbell did to engage with the letterman. And some people have heard about this, but he wanted the team to hear from some of these guys and to get to know the history. And so he set up a time. He worked with myself and Bobby and Tom Venturino, our director of operations, our former director of operations from football. He got the idea about let's invite different decades back, and do like 4 different weekends, and he did. So the first weekend he had the guys from the 70s and 80s come back, or I'm sorry, the 60s and 70s came back, and then he had and 80s, and 80s was included. Then he had guys from the 90s. Then he had guys from the 2000 to 2011 era, okay, when Joe's last day. And then he had basically the 2012, the Bill O'Brien and Coach Franklin guys come back. So he did it 4 weekends in a row, and he had the whole team here, and he had the lettermen and some of their families if they wanted to come. And he told the letterman, he said, "Listen, just introduce yourself, position you played in what year." And they all did, and that led to some of the guys just kind of impromptly just started to describe what Penn State meant to them. And it was a couple times Coach Campbell nudged me and he says, "I couldn't have written a script better than this for these guys to hear these testimonies from these guys," because it was. And I'll just give you I'll paraphrase in here, and I'm going to give you just a kind of an example of one of the players. He said, "Guys, listen." He said, I played in the NFL for 12 years, a couple different teams. He said, "This is your home." He said, those guys, I hardly in contact with them. I'm still in contact 30 years later with all these guys I played with from Penn State. They're my family. He said, "You don't think now. You guys are all thinking, oh, transfer. We don't go right for 1 year. I got to transfer. Or where can I go get the most money, whatever." Okay. You got to think 10, 20, 30 years from now. Where can I call home? Where can I go back to with my family? The privilege you have at Penn State is not like anywhere else. You don't have. I've been in NFL things, and I'm locker rooms, and the guy I'm saying, guys are saying, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend?" They said, "You waving off week." I'm like, "Well, I'm going back to Penn State, and I'm going to hang out." It's, "Oh, they don't even remember me where my old school. They don't even care. I'm not. I just sit in the stands." And the guy's like, we have a Letterman's Lounge we go to. I said we can take our family there. I can go on a sideline if I want, or I have discounted tickets. They're like, "You're kidding me," So, guys, think of that. They said, "These are your teammates." So don't. There's more than just trying to make money and go someplace and then be forgotten. He said, he said, think long term. So.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about that in today's culture.
Yep.
It's about how much money I can make and not how many friends I can make.
Yeah.
That last.
Yep.
We know this is going to be edited. Jared's going to go crazy. He's going to have to edit this. It'll run. This will run several Brockway games at halftime, and Jared will have to cut it so that we can keep it to like about 10 minutes. But
sure.
This may be the last interview you do from here.
Yeah. That's true.
And so I thought, hey, let's just do one. I mean, just let it go and let you talk. And as I look around your office here, and you see all of the memorabilia that's here, this is a majority of your life. Yeah. Your life is all here in this one space.
It is.
And as I've got my own little space at home with also.
It's my man cave.
They call it the man cave.
Yes, this is my man cave.
But all that stuff is meaningful to the people that have collected it over time. And they are, for the most part, good memories. Yeah. If I know this is a tough question.
Sure.
But if there is one memory that sticks out above any other, and oftentimes we have that one moment, what is that moment for you?
Well, there's a few, and I can do them quickly here, but the most special moments I've had here, well, still nothing will beat. I've been part of 31 seasons. I've been here for Joe's through 200th, 300th, and 400th wins. His 400th win was very special because just the emotions that Joe had. I never really seen Joe tear up before till then, and just seeing him tear up at the ceremony we had out in the field after that 400th win was. Yeah, that was really emotional to see him like that, but and I've got, one of Joe's last pair of shoes he ever wore. I just donated to the museum. The museum has them now, but I've had those in this office for 10 years, and I've had them for a long time, and stuff like that. But that was special. But winning the '86, being on the sideline to win the 1986 national championship. I've been a lot of part of games. I've been part of I think 389 games, I think, I figured. And I've outfitted over 1,000 Penn State football players. But there was something special about that Fiesta Bowl group. I mean, you've interviewed Bobby. And, I never saw a team on a mission in all my life, 31 years, that was on a mission to win the national championship the next year. When we lost to Oklahoma in '85, and, we basically, that team went to Joe's hotel room afterwards and said, a bunch of those fifth-year seniors, and said, "Hey, Coach, we're coming back next year because we're not going to let that happen again." And that team was on a mission from January 2nd on to win it, and they did it. And that's what's amazing about it. So it was a heck of a year to go through and be. It was like the Super Bowl of college football to me. So that was special to me. Joe's 400th win, just being part of that. And meeting the President of the United States. When we won the national championship in '86. Falls back on that. Had an opportunity to go to the White House to meet. It was President Reagan, Vice President George Bush at the time, and again, you talk about fate. That I, as student manager from Kerwinsville, was able to go on that trip is still shocking to me because the White House only allowed 50 people to go to that. Now, we have 135 guys on the team. And that didn't count the staff. So you have all the assistant coaches and stuff, talking another 40 people on staff, okay? So when they got the thing where there was 50 people, Coach, they said, "Joe, who do you want to take?" 50 people. So he said, "Well, let's do this." He said, "Take the first and second string offense and first and second string defense. That's 44 guys. Okay. So that left 6 positions. So then Joe, Bryce Jordan, University president, Jim Tarman, our AD, and L. Bud Thalman, our sports information director, flew down on a university plane. That left 2 spots. So Joe said, well, have the 2 head managers go. They can make sure the team busts down. He says, have the 2 head managers get down because they can take roll, make sure the team gets there. That's one of our roles as head managers was we moved the team. Like every time the team moved, ate, get called at the hotel for wake-up calls, get taped, checking meals, planes. We made sure the team was there. And we took roll, make sure everybody was accounted for. So he said, have the 2 head managers go, and they can make sure the team gets there, and the 2 buses are going down. So I was the head manager, myself and Dwayne Rush, and that was how I got to the trip.
And you get a chance to photobomb.
I did. I photobombed the President of the United States. So just meeting Ronald Reagan and the whole White House experience was like, I'm just a guy from Kerwinsville. How can I be here? Yeah. So it was just experience of my lifetime. So those 3, those always stand out to me for my historical moments of Penn State that I always cherish.
Yes, memory's a great thing.
Yeah, and that's why I love this room. You talk about this room and all the memorabilia, and it is. This room, all these every photograph in here has something special that happened historically at Penn State or myself was involved with it. I have a bunch of sideline passes in here from different bowl games and my rings and watches from all the bowls and stuff. And so, I the last 10 years have an office, and I had some of this stuff at home and some was in my equipment room. But to be able to create my little office here, it's been to sit here every day, and I look right up towards Mount Nittany and look at my walls and thinking, I just smile on my face and think, man, the history I did.
Just think if this office was much bigger.
I know, yeah.
How much more stuff you have.
The museum's already like crying the blues about me tearing this office down. They're like, oh no, don't take it away, no.
I see my friend Christian Hackenberg up there.
Yeah, yeah.
You may not know, I played with Christian's granddad.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, I did not know that.
Yes, and so I knew Christian since he was a little boy, actually.
Fantastic.
So we go back, way back with him.
Oh,
so that's a memory for me. But it's, and there are some people that think that, you get all that stuff, you should just pack it away.
Yeah.
Why would you do that when you could share it with everybody? And it reminds you of how you've been blessed to be able to go through all of this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a reminder for that. It's not about bragging rights. It's about your life, your journey, you know.
And knowing where my office was going to be in a position in this Letterman's Lounge here, which is connected to the recruiting lounge, which is connected to the museum, I thought, I honestly, and they bring tours through here where the museum brings tours through the rooms. I just thought, it's going to be so neat for people to be able to enjoy it. Well, it's just, hidden in a box, like you said, or in my basement where nobody can see it. That's been so much fun having people be able to enjoy all of it in one spot. And so my wife's already been in here going, what are we going to do with all this?
That's a question I was going to ask you.
Yeah, so she's like, but no, actually, she already said, hey, we love it, and it's been so much fun to have. So we're going to create that man cave back in my basement, and but there's a lot more because I had stuff that I had in the equipment room. So we're gonna, so I can bring friends and family over now, and former players that come back and visit and come to my house. I can take them down into the basement. So I'm looking forward to that.
I've shown a lot of people that shoe that you showed to me.
Yeah.
I showed them the picture that I took of you with the shoe.
Oh, yeah.
They said those cleats are about 3 inches long. You found in the recesses of the stadium somewhere.
Sure,
it's from like what 1920 something.
1930s, yeah.
1930s.
Yeah, there were. I thought it was wood, but it's pieces of leather nailed together. Yeah, they have nails in them, and it was. They called it a mud cleat from the 30s, and I thought I was so fascinated by that thing. And then, man, but yeah, to find that, and I just hung on to it, and it didn't get thrown away, which so.
People wouldn't know what mud cleats are now. I mean, I know what they were, and to get stepped on with those things was not pleasant. And with that, I mean, they're caught halfway through you.
Yeah.
So you've had the chance too, as an equipment manager, especially, to see the change in equipment through the time that you've been here.
Yep.
For the helmets especially have changed dramatically from what we had in the 60s, for instance. They had very little padding whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, the old suspension helmets they used to have, and the helmets they have now. And, you know, shoulder pads, hip pads have changed. I mean, everything has changed, and you have been a part of that, having to put those things on people.
Yeah.
You really had hands-on when it came to that.
And it was fun that was one of the really aspects of my job I loved was we were on Nike's research and development team. People don't realize that. And we were able to do a lot of their field testing back in the day. Before dry fit material was even created, we tested it. Their glove, we field tested their gloves before they were on the market. We've seen shoe designs before people see them. I had to sign waivers, and even the players that tested them had to sign waivers that we wouldn't disclose it and whatnot. And they loved testing stuff here. And their research people would fly from Oregon here, and they loved us because we were in a northern climate, we were on grass, and we were white, so they could hide everything. It was very under the radar, and so we would test stuff even, and people wouldn't even realize we had it on. And so that was neat. We got to see state-of-the-art stuff and be part of designs. I feel part of, the football. We tested their football, and the football stunk for 2 years, until we got it, kept tweaking it and telling them the problems. And, their football pants, so they tried to start. See, they didn't start making uniforms till 1993, okay? And they didn't start making football shoes till 1982 and 3, okay? And then, so we were one of the original 4 schools that went with our shoes in 1983, 82. And then we were one of their first all-university deals when the apparel came out in uniforms in 1993. And a lot of times, people are talking about our Adidas. We're starting Adidas here in July, which is a little tough for me because I've been a Nike guy all my life, and the history we had with them. But it's fine. It's just the corporate world now. But But yeah, a lot of people say, "Well, they've been with Nike since 30 years." No, we've been with Nike for 40 years, 42 or 3, because of that. The shoes, there was no real deal. It was a handshake with Joe and Phil Knight, the shoe deal, and that was it. So and we got I think for every 3 shoes we buy, we got 1 free. That was kind of the deal. It was a handshake.
So when did Joe get away from the high tops?
Oh well.
He may have been one of the last ones to do it.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, and we still have some. Even they were kind of called 3/4. They weren't true high tops like that one over there. My size 18 over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a true high top there. But we had some that were 3/4 where they're kind of slanted and they're not. But there's still guys that wear some of those 3/4 ones. But no, yeah, Joe it was tough for Joe to change, especially on certain things,
Well, yeah, I'm old school. Yeah. I mean, the high top, the whole idea with the high top, I guess, was, well, maybe it'll help prevent ankle sprains for one thing. And then what happened? They went to the low quarters, but then they would tape the ankles. So it was kind of like the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you said that's a 17 size shoe.
18.
Oh, 18 size shoe. Could you give that to me, Jared? That shoe?
Yeah. Yes, that's the biggest shoe size I've ever had in a player.
Yes.
Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah, this.
That was Levi Brown.
This is not Spider's shoe, by the way. Or Coach Paterno's either.
Yeah. And that's Levi Brown, who actually played offensive tackle for us when Michael Robinson was our quarterback.
Yes,
2005.
Yeah, I remember.
And then he played for the Arizona Cardinals for about 8 years, and he was a monster.
You can water ski.
I know you can. I mean, imagine getting tramped on by that thing.
Oh, look at that!
I just can't fathom that.
Look at the bottom of
that.
that.
I know.
Mean,
yeah.
It's,
in fact, he was here for one of these reunions we did with the Letterman, and I said, "Hey, Levi, you recognize this?" "Oh, I can't believe you stole one of my shoes." He laughed.
Well, and you showed me several boxes of Coach Paterno's shoes that he had specially made.
He did,
right?
Yeah. His last 5 years, yes, yeah. Because Joe liked he wore this shoe called the Air Commander, and that's the shoe that had kind of like the little tongue flap on it. It was real famous with his rolled up pant legs.
Yeah.
And I had, so they stopped making that shoe in 1995, but I had like a dozen pair of them. So and we used to give Joe a new pair every year. So I'm like, that'll last 12 years. Joe would be retired by then. So 2008 comes and goes, or 7, and Joe's still here. I'm like, I said, well, so I got the Nike shoes in that year that were the coach's shoes. I said, Coach, they don't make the Air Commander anymore. I said, here's the shoe, and. So he tried them on. He comes back a little bit later. He goes, I don't really like those shoes. He said, don't worry about it. I'll just wear them old ones. I said, well, okay. Well, there's a couple other options. So I got a couple other options in from Nike. Gave them to him. And a day or two later, he comes back and goes, nah, I didn't like those shoes either. I said, I told you, don't worry about it. I'll wear them old ones. So I told Nike that. And he said, well, Nike said, okay. I said, Mikey, do you have any Air Commanders across the country? Check your supply chain inventory. You got to be somebody that has a couple on the shelf. 10 and a halves. So Nike says, we'll do something better. We'll make them. We'll remake them. So they made 6 pair, brand new ones, off the handmade them. Sent them in to me. They even had, the shoe even has in it, property of Nike, not for resale. So I give them to Joe. He loves them. They were like wearing slippers. They didn't have the tongue on them, but they're very similar structurally. So I told Nike, I said, Nike loves them. He said, great, good to hear. He said, so I said, keep the pattern because we're going to, in case he lasts 6 more years, because I had 6 of them. So so Nike said, well, we're going to do better. So they called Joe, Coach, that shoe you like, we were going to bring it back and call it the Air Commander 2 and start selling it again, but we'd like to call it the Air Jopa. No, don't do it. He wouldn't let him do it. They were going to make that shoe and call it the Air Jopa, and he wouldn't let him do it. That's the way he is.
That says something about the man.
Yeah. He said, I don't need that. Yeah, so nope. Yeah. And so they didn't, obviously, and then they decided not to bring back the Air Commander 2. But yeah, that thing. You imagine the high school coaches and coaches in general would have bought that thing.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah. It's just,
I mean, of course, they never got into making the roll-up pants, right? I mean, the roll-up cuff.
No, right. Yeah. So, which my wife used to sew those. They were still a normal length. He was roll them up, So.
Well, because you told me about his wife, because they were getting dirty, and so he just rolled them up. Right?
Yeah, well, she bought him a brand new suit. He went out for one game, and he got his pant legs. It was a muddy game. The game that day, the game was muddy and stuff like that. So he come back, and here he stained them in the mud. Some mud can actually stain, and she had really trouble getting them out. I said, Joe, when it gets like that, roll the pant legs up. Do something. So how Joe, and then so. I guess then later on that year there was another game that was pretty wet and rainy and muddy, and so Joe rolled his pant legs up. Well, it was a big team we played and we won. So ever since then, Joe wouldn't tell you
superstitious.
Joe wouldn't tell you superstitious, but he was superstitious. Trust me, he had his routines too. As every coach does, every player, myself, we all have our certain quirks and routines, and we had to can't change that. I can't change that. It's my game day.
There must be a picture here somewhere with the rolled-up pant legs. I mean,
I have it right up there, actually. Okay. I have his legs right behind his.
I knew there had to be.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So. Well, now, we used to do right behind your head there, that's an article from 1983, the Penn Stater magazine did, and it's called Hauling the Lions, and it's an article that we did on us, the managers. And the first quote starts out, the student manager's getting ready for a game, and it says, you do the shoes till you lose. And one of our traditions as a student manager is we polished and painted all the players' shoes and Joe's shoes before the game. That was our tradition. And that happened for years. Joe started that tradition. He had us all back in the 60s, okay? Because he loved everything looking like. He wanted to look like the Yankees. Yankees, he always inspired how disciplined the Yankees were and everybody looking the same and the uniformity of that. The Yankees would always had shiny, polished shoes, all black. So that's kind of one of his inspirations he got from when he was a kid. So he wanted his team to look like that. So we would polish our shoes for decades. And then, so we always do Joe's shoes. But you as a student manager, the manager that had the privilege to do Joe's shoes, he was allowed to stain or paint them until we lost. Then it passed to a new manager. And then he would do it until we lost. And then we passed to another manager. So it was kind of a neat tradition we would do, so.
Well, it seems like Joe had kind of a military attitude about the way he approached some things.
Yeah.
That certain things have to be done just this way, and I realize that some things are negotiable and some things are not. And I think he probably had some things that were somewhat negotiable, but a lot of things that just were not negotiable.
Oh yeah.
It was going to be that the way that he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's very militaristic when you look at
for sure.
The shining of the shoes and
yes.
and when I was a coach, we had players would polish their helmets before games. We did that, and the shoes would be shined.
Yeah.
Because it says something. It says something about you.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to one of Joe's most famous quotes that every single player, if you ask him remember one of Joe's quotes, and it was this one: "Take care of the little things, the big things take care of themselves."
Yes.
And that was a little thing that you would take care of.
And I think, Aspire, that this is one thing that we've lost over time, is that people aren't paying as much attention. And I'm speaking, mainly of coaches, and I've coached for 55 years or so. Is that the little things that used to be so important to coaches, not quite so much anymore, and that bothers me a bit. And I think I'm glad for the legacy that Coach Paterno had, especially in that area.
Oh, yeah.
And I think those that played for him and those that worked with him saw that, and it infected them as well. You know, so this is a good thing.
And I'll tell you another neat, traditional, old school tradition from Joe, but yet he was willing to bend. And like you said, how after over years you get a little bit more, easier go on or whatever. But you'll adjust certain things with certain cultures and different things like that, or certain situations as things kind of mature, or whatever. But anyway, but you still maintaining your integrity. But here's a good example: Tamba Hali. Okay, when Tamba Hali was recruited here and he came here, Joe would sit down in every freshman class with the whole team was in there, but he was rejecting this all to the freshman class, and he'd say, "Listen, again, back to an old school military summit." He said, "Listen, I'm asking you, not to wear earrings and not to have long hair or beards." He said, "That is something, I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but it's in respect of the players that have gone before you, because that's how we used to do it, and that was our traditions." Okay, but having said that, I am going to let Tamba Hali keep his dreadlocks he had, okay, because his tribe in Liberia that he basically came from, that's their family and tribal tradition, okay? So Tamba can have his dreads. The next day, Tamba Hali walks in, he had his head shaved bald. He decided, he could have kept them, but he made the commitment to Penn State and Joe out of respect for the traditions.
How would you think if Joe were with us today and walked on the football field and saw Penn State players running around with headsets on while they were warming up? What do you think he would think about that?
That'd be a little tough for him to swallow. He would, trust me. Yeah, because you wouldn't even let him have headphones on the bus coming from Lash over on the team bus. We're in the locker room at all. He wanted everybody focused on each other and the game. So no, that'd have been tough to Joe for swallow. Well, it's funny. The first time we built our new we remodeled our locker room down here at the stadium in 2001 when we added the south end zone additions and the suites. So in August, when it was ready, Joe walks in. This is before the season started, but it was in August in preseason. Joe walks into the locker room for the first time to see it. I was in there already, and Tommy Venarino, his director of operations, let him in. So Joe walks in. Well, we had TVs hanging in the corners, okay, which all locker rooms do now. Joe looks up and sees these televisions in the locker room. "Get those things out of here. We aren't watching cartoons on game day. Get them out." So all those TVs out the window. The next day they were gone. And never had them in there till Bill O'Brien came, and then we put them back up. Yep.
I know something else he would have a problem with is probably all the loud music playing in the locker room.
Yeah.
which you see today.
Well, you'll laugh because Coach Franklin ended up putting a disco ball and strobe lights in the locker room for after the game celebrations. Okay, and I walked in there one day and the maintenance guys were putting it up there. And I'm like, "Oh, guys, please tell me that's a camera and not a disco ball." I think, "No, Spider, it's a disco ball." I'm like, "Rest in peace, Jopa. Rest in peace." I thought he would go crazy. Anyway, but that's just again, it's getting society and changing and whatever it is, what it is.
Well, some of us that became coaches learned a lot from him too. Along that line, and I would never allow the electronics on the bus or that sort of thing. And so there's some things that, and I think that he had solid reasons for it philosophically. And I think if we're going to impose a rule, I think we need to make sure we have a sound basis for it. And I think he did.
Yeah.
And I think 100%. That some things do not get old. Discipline never gets old.
No, right.
And I think that even in this day, he would do what he did, and he would be successful at doing it.
Yeah.
And
I believe that too.
I think the younger people would be better off for it too.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess I think Jared's getting nervous over there, so I guess we better cut this off at some point.
We're running out of tape.
we're running out of tape there. But Spider, we appreciate
my pleasure. It's been fun.
The opportunity to do this and your kindness in doing it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
And there's so many people that are going to miss you here, and you're going to miss. You're going to miss the environment, but you're going to be still around.
Yeah.
And so that will be helpful.
Yeah,
and
that makes it easier, yes.
And I think your life will continue, regardless of our age. I think our life continues, and we can be a benefit to the younger folks coming along. Yeah. And I think you will definitely do that.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
And you got where you are. This is my view of it.
Yeah.
You got where you are because of many things, but I think your character shines through when people talk to
Appreciate
you.
That.
And so,
thanks.
I think that a lot of people can, young people can learn a lot from you. So I think that you're retiring from one thing, but you're not retiring from life. And we appreciate you, and we thank you for this time that we had with you.
Appreciate it, Bill. Thanks so much.
Good.
I enjoyed it a lot.